My first public speech was an unmitigated disaster. I could speak only two sentences, and after that I completely froze and became blank. Well, the audience was a little more sympathetic. It still clapped for me, and they still cheered me up, but I went backstage and completely red-faced. But today here I am standing in front of all of you and giving a TEDx speech. For me, it seems like a miracle. Well, if I look at some of the small things which I started doing, for example, reading English books to just understand and enhance my grasp of the language, or even looking myself in front of the mirror as I am speaking, or for that matter, if I am looking at some of the orators who spoke very well, and I was just listening to them, or even listening to English books to understand the diction and the pronunciation. If I look at all of those things, it helped me to overcome my inhibitions. It helped me to shed my own sense of self-confidence. And over a period of time, I actually started enjoying speaking in front of great audience. So much so that today, if you ask me, 70 to 80% of my work is actually speaking on subjects fairly external in front of varied audiences, like people from my own organization, or my customers, or even students. That is the butterfly effect which I have been living through in my life. For me, the butterfly effect is not just a mathematical representation of a nonlinear equation developed by Lorentz. It's actually a very profound way of looking at the nature and at life. Small things accumulating over a period of time and the cumulative impact which it creates has resulted in outcomes which are far more big, and we could not even have thought about it in the beginning. Because I'm standing here in my alma mater, I just cannot think of remembering that in the year 92, when I was a second year student, I actually studied French as a foreign language accidentally. Well, why accidentally? Because international relations was my first option which I did not get, and through that course I studied very complicated French words, which I later on figured out that many of those words are actually used in English, like rendezvous, like chauffeur, like restaurant, all of that. They're difficult to spell, but they're even more difficult to speak, because you write it in one way but you speak in a completely different way. But what happened over a period of time was that I built a set of quite confidence in myself, and that helped me in the long run in terms of preparing my very grueling MBA exam which I did later on, where I had to pass a number of exams and I had to participate in multiple group discussions and interviews and all of that. Today, after 32 years of having taken that course, my own daughter is now studying French cuisine, and now I can connect with her much better because I did something so many years back. That's the power and impact of small things which has significant change, which you can see over a period of time. As I'm talking about that impact of butterfly effect, I want to talk about how it impacts us as an individual, how it impacts on the overall community, and also the larger world, particularly in the world which is driven by technological changes. So, for example, if I look at a very simple thing, and some of you who are students of history would realize that history is replete with examples where one simple spark resulted in the overall revolution. I recall that during the COVID, I was sitting in my home, and there was no travel for me at all. And as you know, like the consultant like me, we need to travel a lot. And typically 20 to 30% of the time we keep traveling, and hence during that time, I did have a lot of time because I was not traveling. I was sitting in front of the laptop doing one hour after the other. One Friday afternoon, I just decided that let me take a 2-hour session for a very different type of an audience. It was a bunch of girls from an orphanage, from one of the most remote and poor districts of the state of Maharashtra. And I was supposed to talk about a subject on communication skills, time management and all of that. And those 2 hours actually transformed itself into more than 2,000 hours of community work. And today when I see that we have been able to have an impact on almost thousands of such students and women, weaker sections of the society, people who are not as privileged as we are. A simple 2-hour spark resulting in a huge change over a period of time. That has been the power of what we see and call today as the butterfly effect. Because we are talking about a lot of events and impacts from an overall small changes resulting in big impact perspective, let me now shift my focus towards an area which I specialize in, and that's the area of technology itself. If there is one area where there is a huge example, and there are many examples where such changes happen, and that is the field of technology. For example, a very simple invention of a TCP/IP protocol, which connects one computer with another computer, resulted in the creation of this World Wide Web, where you have thousands and millions of devices getting connected with each other. It's creating a whole ecosystem, which is very much a part of life today. Or even a simple innovation in the field of AI, particularly in the area of reinforcement learning, which can convert a very simple computer over a period of 7 days into probably the best grandmaster, chess grandmaster in the world, can be probably the best of the best as far as chess is concerned. And that's the power of very simple innovation in terms of what we have seen. Or even kind of that, say, a simple machine learning model which can predict the weather much faster, cheaper, and in a more accurate manner, as opposed to solving a lot of complex second order and third order differential equations. These are very, very practical examples of how a very, very small change has resulted us in creating something which is very different and very big, and has impacted all of us on a day-to-day basis. Because we are talking about the butterfly effect, let's also touch upon the power of intentionality. Well, when a butterfly is flapping its wings, it's probably not even conscious of what it is doing. It's probably doing it out of habit. It's not doing it very consciously. But we as sentient human beings, we can take those actions and those decisions in a very, very conscious manner. And we can also think of the outcomes which it can produce. It's a huge power available to us to define the way we want to shape the outcomes of the future. And with that comes a lot of responsibility in terms of what actions we take so that we can create the world which we desire. If I look at some of my own examples in the past, I used to work in the UK for a long time, and then I decided to come back. And then I came back, it was a very small team of around 20 people who were working in the field of research and analytics. And then over a period of time, because of very simple, deliberate actions over a period of time, simple things we did, we were able to create one of the largest teams in that field, which is very aspirational and very big and is respected all over the country. And that is something, if somebody would have asked me 2 decades back whether you will do it, I would have simply said it's absolutely impossible. But today, when I reflect back on all of those changes, I cannot but reflect that, well, this was the butterfly effect, which was in action for the last 2 decades. Since we are talking about this, let me also say that in this entire world, it is the way we see it is that we have a power to take very small steps, actions, decisions on a day-to-day basis. It's almost like a flap of that wing of that proverbial butterfly. And it may seem very small and insignificant at that point in time, but it has the potential to transform and to create a wave of change in ways in which we may not even have thought of before. And that is the power which I am talking about. One thing which I would want for you to take away from this session, it will be this, that if you can think of this entire world as a vast web of interconnected actions and consequences. And in this vast web, there is going to be a small action which can result in something which is going to be extremely significant. Let us unleash that power of butterfly effect in all within us. We have the ability to do that, to transform ourselves as individuals, and we have the ability to ensure that these kind of changes can make a far better world, and it can make a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable world for all of us. So please look at that butterfly effect in yourself and in your society. That's what I'm going to leave you with that message. Thank you very much.